Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. This is our first ELUX training session where we've got one planned already for next week. Mirta will be leading that one. If you haven't registered for it yet, registration is available and we'll send out a reminder. We'll be adding a few others as well moving forward later in the month. So keep an eye open for more emails and more sessions. So today's session is about Primo. We're going to go through several different things with Primo. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is roughly going to be the outline of what we're discussing today. So I'll just present this. Just a few slides just to give you some context what we're doing. We're going to talk just about what Primo is. We're going to focus on the administrative interface of Primo, but only in two areas, discovery views and then user interface customization. Primo has more to it than just this, but that's what we're focusing on today. And those are the main components, the main areas of work for Primo, as you'll see. Okay, so what we want to have outcome for this session is a couple things. Understand how to access administrative functions, where you go to get them, and how you turn them on. Discovery views, that's a whole topic we'll talk about, what they are, and when you change something, what actually happens with Primo. And then user interface customization, which is related to discovery views, but it's actually modifying web pages and style sheets, and we'll talk about that. And we'll also talk briefly about Primo Studio. So Primo VE, as it's called, is, and we won't spend a lot of time on this, but it's basically integration with Alma that you can do customization to Primo in conjunction with everything you do in Alma. It's bringing it into that Alma universe. And you'll see what I mean when we go into Alma. Okay, so configuring discovery views. So the reason I wanted this to show you this is because this links to the documentation that Ex Libris provides for these type of tasks. I've gone through this and it's quite good. I recommend definitely referring to this, and I'll put the thing we're talking about today, the slides for this, the slideshow, I'll put that up on the website so you'll have access to this link. So this is quite good. It gives a lot of detailed information, and we'll go through this. So I definitely recommend that. Also, the user interface customization also has excellent administration as well. I'm sorry, documentation for the administration of it as well. So I definitely recommend that too. And then what I'm going to do next is actually walk through it, show you how it works, and then we're going to have questions after that. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, great. So now I'm going to jump over to Alma. So the way that you actually work with Primo is you actually log into Alma. It's connected directly into Alma. It works, through your Alma login interface. And what has to happen for you to be able to access it is that you have to have permissions set up for this. So here's my user account, and of course here are all my user roles. The most important one is number 4, and that's Discovery Admin. And Discovery is kind of a synonym for Primo in Alma. And you can see I have this as active and administration for it. So if that's not set up, you won't be able to see a lot of what's under Discovery at all. So you have to have that turned on first. So that's obviously the first thing that has to happen before you can do anything in Primo. But once that's turned on, then you can go into this and work on different things. Now, you can see there's more than just the views I was talking about in the slideshow. And a lot of these other things are related to how Primo functions, but we're not going to talk about them because they actually are big enough topics for their own session. But what we are going to talk about is configure views. So I'm going to click into here just to get us moving in that direction. So this is Georgetown University's instance of Alma and Primo. And this is actually going to be similar for a lot of campuses here in Qatar, is that you're not just going to have one instance of Primo, you're actually going to have multiple ones. And you can see we have one for our main campus. This is the one that the people in Washington, D.C. use for their Alma experience. And what I'm going to do is click over here and go to view. And this will actually go to Primo now. Okay, and you can see this is our main campus's Primo version. So the power of this Primo is that you can create a view specific for your campus, for your location, if you want it to be different than what you get from the main campus. So now I'm going to go to our Qatar version of Primo. You can see there's differences here. What you see here, the color is a little different. Some of the wording is different. And you'll see soon things like these links are different and how we can modify that. So this is an important aspect, is that you can create more than one view and you can customize it depending on your needs, and they work independently of each other. So if somebody makes a change to this top view for Georgetown University, it doesn't impact what you do here in terms of how you set up the options for Primo. Now, obviously, it's backed by a central index that is shared. So that is going to be identical, but the way that we set up the search options and the look and feel is different. It's going to be distinct for our view. Okay, now that is great. So we have a lot of them. You can see we have different things. We actually have some demo ones as well. So that's another important point, is that when you're setting this up, it might be a little bit intimidating to look at all the options and worry, like, if I change something, is that gonna like cause problems? That's why we have set up, and I recommend setting up a demo or a test version of Primo. That's going to allow you to go in and make changes and not worry that your users who might be working on some research are going to suddenly have problems if something goes weird. Okay, so the next step is to configure the view. And the way you do that is you click on these dots and then you go to edit. And that will actually get you into this view, and we're doing Qatar demo here. And it'll give you all the options for configuration. And you can see there's quite a lot here. At first, this might look a little bit overwhelming, but the good thing is that the documentation actually goes through everything you see on that screen point by point. So if you have any questions about what it means for select as default view, you'll get an answer for that in the documentation. So definitely use that. But now that we see this, we can look through this a little bit. So the way it works is that you basically are going to go through this and make changes. It's really simple. That's one of the great things about Alma and Primo, is it is as simple as clicking a checkbox, entering some text here, changing a drop-down. I have to say, Alma's made it really accessible to work with their tools. And and Georgetown came from Sierra, and I have a lot of experience with Sierra. Compared to Sierra, this is like a dream. This is so much easier to deal with, especially working with the OPAC modification and customization. Okay, so a couple things I want to point out here. Um, some of these things are pretty self-explanatory. That autocomplete enabled, yes, and unchecked for no. Personalize your results. Some of these are self-explanatory. Some of these are a little bit confusing. Display locations for member institutions. Um, the way that Primo works is that it assumes a particular context that you're in. So for Georgetown University, we're in the context of a consortium. And so we have member institutions beyond Georgetown. So if that's the case, you're going to see some of these network or location settings in that situation. And in other situations, this would not be available. So the way that we've set it up here at Georgetown is we don't include inventory from institutions that are not here in Qatar. Or I'm sorry, I mean that are not Georgetown University. So we have different universities like George Washington University, and they have a lot of content, but we're not really interested in that because our users can't access it. So we have options to limit what is seen when people do searches. So that's kind of the way this works. So this first screen here is just general setup for the Primo instance, the view. When we get into the next one, the links menu, this is where we're actually going to be making changes that you'll see pretty immediately on screens like this. So the way it works, again, it's really straightforward. It's as simple as just unchecking or unclicking, deactivating something. So when I do that, I deactivate QNL, it goes to this, and it actually is saved immediately. It saves it the moment you do that. So I'm actually going to go into the demo view, and you're going to see how quickly this works. So QNL is in our regular view. I made that change, and now you can see it's gone. So that, again, is a key point I want to stress about Primo, is that when you make changes, you'll see the results immediately. You won't have to wait. You won't have to reload a server, or restart a server, like maybe in past, Sierra or something like that. In Primo and Alma, it's immediate. So I'm going to turn that back on. And again, it's our demo view, so nobody's seeing this. So the changes we make aren't going to hurt any of our students right now, thankfully. And now it's back. Okay. The other way it works is, again, it's really simple. If you want to change the order, maybe we want QNL to show up a little bit high or different location, is all you have to do is click on this up and down button, and it will move it in the ordering. So now it's the fourth one here. If we go back and reload this, you'll see that it is immediate. It's now the fourth position here. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. You get instant feedback on that. There's no drag and drop, unfortunately. I can't drag this and move it down. That's kind of, maybe that'll be a update suggestion we'll give them in the future. But the way it works is that you just got to do row by row and move it down or up where you want it to go. And it works like that. This is going to be a theme. We're going to see this more than once, this type of setup here. Next, you can go to the three dots and click on Edit. And this is where you can actually configure how the link will work, the words that will be used on the link, and any other, anything like that, the code for it. So I'm going to cancel that. So if we wanted a new link here, so we wanted something, maybe we wanted to point back to our main campus. What we would do is go to Add Link, and this would be like main campus. Oops. Main campus, and we would send the URL. The way we would do that is, I'm just going to grab it here. Yep, that's it. So let me copy that, put that there, and main campus, library. That's actually what it is. Whoa. There we go. All right, so that's all you do. You save it. Okay, and it will turn it on immediately. So if we actually go here now back to our view and refresh it, you're going to see that we have a new link available. And there you go. See, it's as simple as that. If I click on it, it goes exactly where I want it to go. So that's, I mean, again, it's a great thing because it's as easy as that. One thing to notice here that you may see is that we have this more now. So the way it works is that depending on how many of these links that you add, if it's over a certain number and if it's over 6 in our case, it actually doesn't feel like it can fit it all on here. So it gives you this more, and it will give you this little overlay that show you do everything. So we dealt with this. We decided we didn't really like that. So we limited the number of links available here to 6. So if you have 6 or fewer, and I'll turn off main campus now, you don't see that more ... thing. You just see the links that fit on the bar. So, and any questions so far about that? So, okay, cool. All right. So let's see. All right, moving on. So this here, links menu, all that refers to is this top area here. Nothing else is configured in this particular tab. Moving on to the next, so I mean, that one's pretty straightforward. It's not that exciting, to be honest with you. And a lot of these ones here that aren't turned on, some of them are kind of standard Alma links that are like pre-designed by Alma. So database search, browse search, and you can see that the URL is really like simple, and that will indicate that something internal with Alma. So it's actually going to point you back to Alma. And you can see journal search is one we have here that's really short. And when you actually click on that, you're actually still in Alma. You're just doing a journal search in Alma. So that again is a key thing, that these links could be to external resources, like our library guides here, SpringShare, which is our database list, or it can be something internal with Alma in Primo. So you have both types of links here. Okay, search profile slots. Okay, so what this corresponds to is the different types of searches that you're making available to your users. So where you will see this is if you, we're going to go start new search. And a quick way to see this is right here, advanced search. This is where these types of searches are showing up. So search for everything, June release, we were testing, doing some testing, just everything. UCLQ, we share the database with them, and we share the building with them, and course reserves. And you can see that corresponds to these 4 active codes right here. So the way it works, again, is that all you have to do is click it on like that. So I'm adding library catalog, and you refresh this page, and we'll bring up the search again. Oh, and let's see. Oh, I think I duplicated. Hold on. So let me turn that off. And let me also turn that off. Okay, and let me turn this off, course reserves. Okay, now let me refresh. Okay. Oh, I think that one's default, actually. Yeah, I think that one actually is a default. Oh, no, I know why. Sorry. Actually, I'm not in the demo. Now I'm in the demo. Okay, now let's go to advanced search. And you can see no course reserves. Sorry about that. Sometimes the links go to the wrong place. Okay, now I'm going to turn back on Qatar catalog here, which is UCLQ. And we're going to see UCLQ comes back now. And there it goes. So now as long as I'm in demo in the right view, these will actually do something immediately when you change them. Okay, so with that in mind, what we can do is we can actually rearrange how they show up. So if I want UCLQ to be the second one, now again, it's going to be the same concept. You just, now it's number 2. It's really simple that way. Now, if we want to look at this actual search profile, we can go to edit. And so this is not what we're going to get into a lot, but I wanted to show you that it actually is building some complexity, some logic into the way you're searching. So that UCLQ is actually just searching for stuff we have here in Qatar because it's in our local database. So that's why we do this one here. But you can see we have a lot more options, and you can combine, you can do a lot of complex searching for these different slots. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but I wanted you to see that there is, some real thought put into how you're building searches. And when someone actually clicks on UCLQ, you can set it up so their search really pinpoints things that you want them to see and hides things that you don't want them to see. So for example, this articles one here, if we look at that real quick, central index articles, you see articles and more. So we're not limiting it to just the catalog, which would be a lot of print content and not necessarily articles, obviously. But for articles, and we named it articles, we turn that on. So let me cancel that. Okay, so the one thing I will do now is I will actually turn that off, and I will bring back the course reserves. And then I'll make sure that the order is correct. And this is pretty much how it was set up before I start making changes. So we're back now. So again, it's as simple as that, as making those modifications and seeing instantly your changes in action. That's a key thing. And that's what makes this system really, really useful, because you're not wondering if my changes have actually done anything or not. You see it instantly. If you don't see something, then you haven't done it correctly. Okay, advanced search configuration. Now, what this refers to is obviously the advanced search, specifically what you see in these drop-down menus when you actually do a search. So you see content types here, languages. That corresponds to list of indexes here for content types, and then, resource types here, and then languages here. Yeah, this actually here, this list of indexes refers to this right here. Now, one thing to notice is that this is an everything search here, and you can see I have 5 or 4 here that I can see. If you go back here, you see there's more than 4. The way that this works is that they actually are connected. The types of indexes you see for your search are linked to the search profile. So you can see we have 4 here that are course reserve, the instructor, course code, and so on. These do not show up when you're doing an all and everything search. So that's why we don't see these in this particular search here. We're doing everything here, and you only see those. If we change it to course reserves, what we see is going to be different. Hold on. Yeah, exactly. So here we go. We see everything that we saw before, but then we see these additional options. And of course, this makes sense in the context of doing a course reserve search. So that's one thing to be aware of, that if you expect to see 9 and you're not seeing 9, there's a reason why. It's contextual. It depends on what type of search you're doing. And again, you can do some editing on these. And this is title. So this is how we're doing our search based on the title. Basically, we're looking for title in all these types of materials and locations or index. Title in all these sort of things. We're not going to go into this. Again, this is more complex than we're talking about now, but you do have the ability to do some really fine-tune adjustment here. Okay, moving on. Again, this is here resource types, and like I said, that corresponds to this here. And so we have all these here. So again, it's the same thing. If I don't want dissertations, I just turn it off. You can see now it's grayed out, it's not active. And if I refresh this here, okay, I think you know what's going to happen. We don't have dissertations here. So really simple. Okay, now it's back on. And again, we also have listed languages. And they give you the option to do alphabetical order, and we have all these languages. And the search profile, so basically when you do a search for everything or anything, basically all the different searches, it's going to give you a breakdown by language in the search. So let's actually do a search here. I'm going to go to everything, I'm going to do Qatar, and I'm going to just leave all the defaults on here. And now we're going to get to results. And we're going to go through this in more detail, but you can see a language here. All those languages, if there's a book with a keyword Qatar, it give you all those languages if there's a book with Qatar in that particular language. So that's how that works. So this here, again, this one isn't that complex, but it's important to understand kind of what's going on here and in the advanced search. Okay. Now that all that stuff is pretty straightforward. What we're going to get into now is actually more information displayed to the user and giving them options to do refinement and filter the results. So this is getting a little bit different now. You can see it looks different as well. So we're in brief results, and that corresponds to this. Basically, when you do a search and the result list you get back from that first search. We're not actually looking at anything in detail yet. This is just the brief search result. So the way this works is you can see on the left, we have all these different filters, kind of categorizations of our result list. And that corresponds to what you see here. So you can see we've turned on quite a few, but we've left off quite a few as well. So if what I could do is I could turn on, let's see, genre, for example. Turn that on. And you can see I'm going to leave it to 0 right now because I want to talk about that. And if I refresh this search, and we'll see if, I'm not sure if genre is used that much, so we'll see if it comes up. Let's see, no, it doesn't. So it depends on how you're using it. I should have asked Kelty first before doing that maybe. But if it works for your content, it's going to come up. Let me change something else. Not sure what would work, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's go into some of these details. Now, the values to display 5, what that corresponds to is the number of different items that will be shown here. So you can see there's only 4, and and the reason why we only see 4 is because that's actually as many as came back. There's only 4 for this particular one. But you can see Georgetown locations, it says show more. And if you click on that, we get a few more. Okay, so the way that works is that if you go to library, and that's what we're seeing there, that library corresponds to Georgetown locations. And I'll talk about why the wording is a little bit different in a minute. But the way it works is that if we wanted to show more or less than 3, if we wanted to show maybe 5, you just do that, change it to 5. You're sorting it by size. So what that means is the size of the result numbers. So I'm going to refresh this search now. And what we're going to see, okay, is now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 listed. And you can see they're sorted by the size, which is this number here. And we can still show more. So again, this is how you customize this here. You change this parameter here, and again, a key kind of theme is that when you make a change, you're going to see something immediately. It's really fast. It's instantaneous on that. Okay, and then if I click on these dots, you can edit this particular one here, and again, you get a lot of options. So there's fine-tune control over what you're actually searching and how the results are compiled for this one. You can sort it a different way as well. So if we do alphanumeric, so now instead, although Qatar is 723 here, if we refresh this now, you can see for the library location, now is actually Qatar is down here because Q comes in alphabetically this way. Again, obviously we have a reason for doing it differently, but that is an option you have available. So I'll change that back to size. Okay. And you can see there's quite a lot here. So when we look at this, there's a lot of different filtering options here. And the way that you see these, the way that these come into play, the existence, is through here. This is how it happens. And again, what we talked about earlier about the profile slot, course reserve here is, there's 4 here. What we did was a search not for course reserve. We did it for everything. So we're not necessarily going to see, we're not going to see course reserve filters here. And that's why. So it's contextual for the course reserve search. Okay. Any questions at this point? No. Okay, good. All right. Moving on. Okay. So the next one is brief record display. So what that refers to, if we go in here, that's going to refer to actually what we see here, this here, and all these different options here. So you can see we got the title here, we have some other bibliographic information here, location, and that corresponds to what we see here. So, for example, some of these are standard. I'm not given an option to really change this, but I could change the order if I wanted to. And I can also go into edit. So it's using the vernacular title. And what this is going to do, this is going to then refer back to the cataloging in Alma and how you set that up. So if I want this particular field to have more information, I can click Add Field, and then I can actually, let me make this bigger, I can actually choose a field, and this again refers back to some information you find when you're doing cataloging, and you set up in that Alma area, and you can then show that information in your brief results list. I'm not actually going to do it because I can mess things up, so I'm going to be careful with that. This down here, though, is record actions. That corresponds to this, what you see here. So RefWorks, print, and so on. And again, if we wanted to add EasyBib, for example, it's as simple as turning that on. So I'm going to refresh this page. Okay, here we go. And once this loads, now I have EasyBib. So again, as simple as that. It's really, really great that way. And these are pretty standard. You're not getting configuration options here. And the way it works is built into Primo. It's a default action. You do have to do some setup, obviously, with RefWorks because you want to use institutional version of RefWorks. So there is set up here, but it's not configured in this area. You also have upfront actions. You can choose 3, and that corresponds to kind of what you can do here quickly. Permalink, so we have that one here. So that one's one of the ones that they're going to get. So what that means is you don't have to click on this ... to actually get it. You can actually just do that, and it comes up immediately. So that's what that means. Okay. So that one's pretty straightforward. Full record here, this is where, again, you could spend a lot more time. So what this corresponds to is when you actually click on item and what you see here. Everything that you see in this screen here is controlled here, mostly. And so I want to show you an example. If we, in the details, so these these different codes and numbers here correspond to different parts of this record display. And one I want to focus on is details, because details is the biggest one. It's where you get all of this stuff here, everything you see kind of there, all the details. So if I click on that and go to configure, this is where I'm able to actually modify, make adjustments to this and change it. So for example, let's say I want something like, well, let me click on publisher. Let me edit this. Okay. This is where I can turn it on and off. It's a little different than what we've seen in other places. So instead of being able to do it active next to it in this list, you have to click into it, and then you can make it active or inactive. And then you can also delete it as well. I'm not going to. So what I am going to do, though, is come down to, let's see, I will go to contributor, edit. Let's see. Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to add a field. So all those that we see right now are actually active. So if I want to add one that is not listed there, what I have to do is actually add it. So it activates it by default, and it won't be in that list if it's not active. So one I want to add is place of publication. I'm going to add that. It's active, and then I'm going to hit done. Okay. You can see it comes down here to the bottom. So now when I go here and refresh this view of that particular record, you see place of publication is now listed. So, and what we've done, we've actually configured ours to have the identifier, the ISBN, and the way I got that working is by adding that to this list. So now what I'm going to do is place a publication. I'm actually going to edit it, and I'm going to make it inactive. And what it's going to do, and I'm going to hit done, is it's actually, well, it made it inactive, but we still have that there. But when we refresh this, it will not be here anymore. So no more place of publication. And I'm actually going to delete that because it's nothing right now. Okay, and you can see it's gone. Okay, so again, hopefully you're getting the idea that some of the stuff is pretty straightforward. It's not very intimidating. It's actually pretty accessible to us to make these changes, to test things out, and not worry too much that it's either a lot of work to get these things changed, or that we're stuck if we make a change we don't like. Okay. So going back to the full display, there's other things that we can change here as well. I won't go through everything, but we have something like links here. We'll configure that. And again, it's going to be sometimes as simple as just a checkbox. So display source record. And we do want that, so we turn that on. So not everything's going to be a long list of all these different options. Some of them are just on or off, and so there's a lot of configuration and different ways to turn things on or off. Now, one note I will make is that the naming here, the way that we've named them, actually is controlled in a different place. It's actually controlled in labels, and we're not going to go through that. So if we look at some of this, like it says recommendations or browse shelf, we don't necessarily see that here, so that could be a little confusing. I don't see a browse shelf, or export to, doesn't correspond to anything I see here. The reason why is because our folks have renamed a lot of these labels, so that could be a little confusing. I just want people to be aware of that sometimes it doesn't correspond, and there's a reason why. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, cool. Oh, hopefully you're getting, hopefully you're getting the idea that it's not too bad so far. Now, the next one, so what we've talked about so far, all these tabs here correspond to configuring discovery views and doing that configuration. It's all inside Alma. It's not doing anything like external from Alma. This next part, though, user interface customization, is a little bit different. So, and the way it works is that you go here, manage customization package. So this is where you can actually impact things like, if we go back to a original search, let me do that. Okay, oh, sorry. Let me actually start new search, but then go to demo. Okay, there we go. So things like the color of this bar up here, this logo image here, the blue, this text here, all that stuff is actually controlled from this part of the configuration. So for example, upload logo file. What that corresponds to is this actual image file. So when I upload that logo file, this is actually what you're seeing, the actual image here. So if I open that image in a new tab, that's it. So that's the file I uploaded to get that working. You can, the link, this links back. When you click that link, it links to our library website, and you can control that, obviously. So, but the big question you might be having is, if I wanted to change this text, or if I want this to be like a green, for example, this color here, how do I do that? So the way that works is a little bit more complicated, and this is where some documentation is really helpful, and some testing is really helpful to get really good at doing this process. And what you have to do is you have to download a set of files, and then you work with those files and make edits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that works, the workflow. So you have options here: download package. You got template view customization package, current view customization package, and central customization package. So this central one is basically what you get when you install Ex Libris and Alma. This is kind of the default starting point that everyone gets, unless specifically updated this. So we don't want that, because we don't actually want to start, we don't want to make changes from that very first starting point. What we want to do is actually use the second one here. And this template view, I won't talk about that right now, but current view customization package, what that corresponds to is what we actually have right now. Current view is this, our current view. So when we download this, what we're doing is we are actually downloading a zip file. And I'm going to show that in Finder. So we download the zip file, and I'm going to unzip that, and then I'm going to open it. And what you actually get from Primo is you get source files. So we have CSS files, which are style sheets. We get HTML. We get image file, which is our logo. It comes with it. And then JavaScript files here. And the way that this works is that basically you open up these files. I'm going to open this one with an editing tool. And this one is here. So this is where you have to know a little bit of code at this point. So the way that they set up the system is that they're actually using some advanced technology to make all of this work. It's something called Angular, which is a JavaScript, a modern JavaScript framework that does things. So for example, when I search, you can see the page doesn't really refresh. And when I click on a title, we're not actually going to a different page. We're just bringing up more data. That's the idea. It's kind of a seamless experience. And that's what Primo is doing. So you have to understand that framework, and that you're inside that framework. And some of these things that you see here, if you know HTML, these are going to look a little weird to you. It's based upon that Angular JS framework. But what we can do is we can change things like text. We can do some things here. So, for example, I did this beforehand. renew your books, magazines, and videos. Magazines actually doesn't make sense because I don't think we allow renewals on that. So that was an error. So I actually need to change that. So if we go here, oops, sorry, if we go to back to our initial search, oh, here, you can see it says books, magazines, and videos. Okay, so I'm actually going to go here and make that change, books and videos. I'm actually going to save this file now, and it's saved. And then I'm going to close this, quit, okay. And then the way that this works, and this is a little bit intimidating, I have to admit, is that you have to re-zip this file. Basically, take all the changes that you made, and we made. You can see today at 10:47 I made a change here, and we have to re-zip it. So I'm actually going to delete this other one, and we have to re-zip this. So the way that this works, and again, this is just me showing you so you can see how, the idea. It's a little confusing, but I have to actually zip that file, and there's different ways to do it. I'm on a Mac, so the way it works for me is that I'm actually going to go into downloads where I am right here, and I'm actually going to run this command, and this is actually in the Primo documentation. And what I'm going to do is run that command, and it's demo. I'll make sure it's demo, not the live one, and it will zip that file. Now I have a new zip file here. So, and then what I'm going to do at this point is actually come back over here, go to customization package, select that new one. I just created a new zip file, open it, and then upload. Okay. And if you see a message like this, that's good. I've seen many red messages before. Nothing terrible has happened, but that you want to see a blue message. That means it was successful. Now, the thing I do want to point out here is that when we upload that, if we refresh this, you won't necessarily see that change immediately. So magazines is still here. And that's because when you actually upload that file, Alma and Primo have to do some processing, and then it takes some time for it to filter through their web server and be visible. But one thing I will do is I will open a new browser, and I will go to private window, which doesn't have any cached history, and load this here. And you can see magazines is gone, and it's demo. So that's how that works. That one is so that's definitely not something you would do every day, and it's not something that you would just sit down and press a few buttons typically and be happy about it. It takes some thought, some planning, some make sure you steady hands that you're comfortable doing all that sort of stuff. But that's how that works, and that there's more to it than that. But that's the workflow. That's basically what you would do. You would download the customization package, make changes, save it as a zip file, and then upload it back to the system. Now, I also want to show you really quickly Primo Studio, and this is a cool tool. I don't actually use this, but it gives you a chance to actually go into this page here, make changes to these things, and see what they look like. So if I want to change it to that color, for example, and maybe, let's see, change that to green, and then preview is running. Let's see, that maybe I did the wrong, oh, here we go, update theme, yeah. You can actually see those changes. Yeah, so the green isn't there except for this word here in the magnifying glass, but you can see the grays here. So it gives you a chance to make changes, preview them, kind of get a sense of what they are before you commit yourself to uploading a zip file. And what you can do is once you're happy with everything, you can download the changes you've made, and then you have that customization package. So that's what Primo Studio is. I'm not going to go into this any further just because I'm not using this right now to do the upload, but it's really cool because it gives you a chance to make changes, do edits, and see it before like finalizing the upload and making the changes permanent. So there's good documentation on this as well. Okay, so let's see. That is basically what I want to cover, and we don't have much time left. But I want to get the point across that it's accessible. It's not something to be really intimidating, and that's the great thing about Alma is that they make it easy for you to do things, to make changes, and to see your changes pretty quickly. You're not restarting a server like you had to do with Sierra a lot. You're not messing around with tokens and different weird web options. For the Sierra folks out there, you probably know what I'm talking about. So it's really pretty good. And again, documentation is very good. I definitely recommend consulting this when you are working on that. But hopefully you get a sense that it's not overly intimidating. It's not too bad, actually. So, all right, any questions, comments, reflections? Mirta, looks like you have a question. No, Rabin.
Well, actually, I don't. I want to compliment you on this training. I think it was great.
Oh, thanks.
All the way up to the point where you started talking about coding.
Yeah.
That's where you lost me.
Yeah.
But the first part was great.
Yeah. The coding part is kind of the where it's a little touch and go, a little bit nervy when you're actually doing that stuff, because if you mess that up, then it's a bit of a headache.
Well,
to fix it.
I wouldn't even try.
Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to be doing more of these type of sessions, and this was our first one. So we're going to definitely work on matching it to the needs of the community, and setting them up to be really helpful for what you want to get out of sessions like this. So we're definitely going to seek some feedback too. But but that's pretty much it.
And Robert, are you available for consultations if people have questions afterwards?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. One of the benefits of remote work is that I'm busy, but I definitely am available to help too.
You're flexible.
Yeah, exactly. So feel free to reach out. Yes, I'm happy to help.
Great.
So, and actually, the Cornell folks, I know you're not currently on Alma, but you're going that direction, I think, right?
Really appreciate it. It was really good.
Robin? Mike.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I just want to say thank you so much for your excellent explanation. Yeah, and actually, I want to say, like,
Well, I think
I really lost when you started to work back and forth. Yeah, so I missed kind of the majority of that part. So if this session is recorded, would that be possible to get the recording session?
Absolutely, yeah, yep. We will make that available to you, and if there's anything, if you go through it and it's still not clear, feel free to reach out to me.
It can go up on the website, on the ELUQ website.
Exactly. Yep. So we'll advertise it when it's uploaded.
That'll be great.
Great. Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Good to see everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
Very much.
Thank you. Yeah, you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you. Bye, Donna.
Thank you, Rob. It was really helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you. And Iman, I'll be in touch about the confirmation.